Hello everyone and welcome, I'm Beastly Eel, and in today's video we have to talk about the series finale of Andor. These were incredible 3 episodes, a lot to discuss. We're going to have to go through it as, well, I don't want to say as quickly as possible because that's not the right way I want to say it, but there's at least a lot to discuss, so let's get right into this. So one of the big things here is we start off with being on, oh my gosh, why can I not think of it? Where the Senate is. Anyway, and we see Lutheran and Kaylee, how do you say her name? Kaylee? Klyla, sorry, Klyla. I don't know where the hell I was getting that. So anyway, they were talking to each other and everything else, and then they find out that there's issues going on. It turns out they're going to have a major problem. So one of the big things here is he talks to his informant, who is explaining to him kind of what's going on and how he has to get out of there because they've figured out what's going on. And Lutheran's like, well, how do you know what's going on? He's like, man, I know enough that even I'm blacklisted. Like, this is not a good thing whatsoever. We have a huge problem on our hands. And he's trying to get Lutheran to agree to kind of work together in the sense of getting help so he can get the heck out of there because he wants to be safe since he's been helping out Lutheran all these years. Lutheran kind of gives him a heads up on where he is and everything else, and then shoots him and gets out of there. So one of the other big things there is he goes and finds Klyla and explains to her what's going on, that they're looking to get rid of him. So she's like, all right, well, we're going to have to send a broadcast to get help, and then we'll get on the ship to get out of there. And he goes, no, I'll go do it. You go to the ship and wait for me. She disagrees and everything else. He finally tells her, no, this is what we're going to be doing. So he goes there, destroys all of the technology that's in there as quickly as possible. And that's when Deidre, the Imperial officer, comes in and speaks to Lutheran. Now, the two of them begin to have a conversation as if she's going to buy something. One of the big things is she eventually reveals why she's there and explains that she's there to finally arrest him because she's figured out who he is. And he's like, you know what? To be honest with you, I've already been knowing who you are. So the fact that it took you this long to figure out who I am is kind of depressing. Which I think is one of the biggest things that I have to say on Lutheran's side, where he basically explains to her that he's not afraid of her whatsoever, which I find to be kind of cool. Overall, I think it's just one of the coolest things possible. Just because it's one of those things where he knows he's kind of cooked, but at the same time is willing to just go out on his own terms, really. And I find that to be kind of hilarious. Um, and overall, I have to say, they have that going on. Apparently, he's surrounded. He then takes one of the knives and stabs himself in the heart. That's when she orders everyone to come in, to come get him. They take him out and get him on life support and get him out of there. While this is going on, Klyla sees what's happening and sees that he's taken away. Excuse me, taken away. So we have that going on. We then have him go, excuse me, I apologize. We then have Klyla trying to figure out what she's going to do next. She then decides that she's going to go and take out or go to the hospital. So her big thing is um, she tries to get into the hospital. So one of the big things here is we have Deidre getting yelled at because apparently she went above her pay grade and outside her jurisdiction to try to get Lutheran. And it backfired and caused Lutheran to be on death's door. They have no new information about what's going on, and the Empire is not happy with it whatsoever. That's one of the biggest things I want to talk about right there is the Empire is not very happy with what's going on with the little information that's happening. However, the other issue that's going on as well is the fact that the Empire is now realizing that the Death Star is now being leaked by pretty much everyone. So Deidre gets arrested by Imperial officers, and they begin to put a massive security watch on Lutheran. So Klyla goes in there, um, does straight up, how do I want to phrase this? I don't want to say ninja skills because that's not how I want to phrase it, but she does some great spy work right here and goes in, starts blowing up things to cause a distraction. She then goes upstairs, steals nursing outfit, goes tries to get a patient up on the floor, is denied, then sneaks around, starts shooting the remaining stormtroopers that are around, goes in and removes Lutheran from the life support. Now, while this is all going on until Lutheran takes his last breath, we find out that Lutheran found Klyla on a remote planet. She was hiding inside of a ship. He was not willing or not wanting to really fight in the rebellion anymore. He was exhausted, pretty much just done with it all. Mentally exhausted, all of the above, right? So while that's going on, he then tells her to be quiet and everything else, and we see them kind of grow up, or watch her grow, how she wants revenge and everything else, and he explains to her what actually needs to be done, which I think was actually pretty cool, explaining how things need to be done for it to be done properly, so that way there's less of an issue and they can continue to do the work that they want to do, which I kind of find to be very interesting overall. So while that's happening, we then have her grow up, and he's pretending that that's his daughter, just to try to get people not to be asking too many questions. And then obviously he gets into more antiques as time goes on. It's unclear how the antiques fully get involved, but I don't think it's really important, I'll say, in this. So all of that is happening, which is great, don't get me wrong. We then have um, Cassian with our friend K9. Is that his name? I believe that's his name. Um, and they're teaching him how to play a game, gambling, of course. And he's kind of like, "What are you guys doing? Like, this is kind of stupid. Like, you guys need to be smarter than this." And everything else, and just basically trying to show him what it's like to be, different, I guess you would say. But I guess it's kind of showing him a different light of what's going on, which I find to be kind of interesting. So anyway, so she gets rid of Clyla gets rid of Lutheran. She then begins to try to send a message to anybody who can help her to get her out of there because now it's locked down and she's being hunted down like crazy. So um, they then finally somebody figures out what's going on. They tell Cassian. Cassian's trying to figure out what to do next. He's realizing it must be Lutheran that's in trouble, not thinking of anybody else. So he tries to go to the council and explains like what's going on, and they're like, "No, Lutheran's not been a good help." Blah blah blah. And he's like, "But Lutheran started this whole thing. Without him, none of this would have existed. So we need to go help him because it's needed." And they're kind of like, "Well, we're at our weakest right now, and we shouldn't be wasting time doing this." So Cassian, along with the canine robot and his other partner, decide to take off and go to Coruscant. Oh my gosh, that hurts so much, and it took forever to finally come up with that name. So trying to get in Coruscant to get a better idea of what the heck's going on, so they can do basically help out whoever it is who's in trouble. Um, so all that's going on, then Klyla's trying to survive. They get to the area before the Empire. So the Empire begins to figure out what's going on service wise. After talking to Deidre, Deidre explains like what they might be doing and everything else. They then start to look for different frequencies, or they're neglectful of doing so, and then they find a signal by accident, realizing somebody's calling for help. So they begin to search for it and they hunt it down. So they get a general area of it, and that's when Cassian and his crew get it there. So then the Empire comes right after. They shut off all communication in that area, so comms are down for K9 to be able to. Is it K9? Why is it bothering me so much that I cannot, for the life of me, think of. Anyway, thought for sure it was K9, but anyway, K9 unit maybe? I don't know. Doesn't matter. The robot. Realizing what goes on, and then he goes out there and starts taking out stormtroopers barehanded. Um, Cassian gets to Klyla. They then realize they have to get out of there. They are then surrounded by stormtroopers. However, the K9 unit takes them out after they get blasted by like a very sonic boom, I guess you would say. and Klyla's knocked out completely. So they then get her out of there. They take off. They get back to their planet. They get bombarded with all of these rebels pointing their blasters at him. He's explaining what's going on and what needs to be done. He also was told about the Death Star, so he then explains to the council what this Death Star is supposed to look like, and they're like, "Well, this isn't even a promising thing. How do we even know what this is?" And they're very much against it. However, Mothra and the other guy begin to try to sway the rest of the council to be like, Lutheran's never truly been wrong. And if he's got this information, and he's died because of it, it's got to be legitimate enough. Because he's not just dying for nothing; he's got to be dying from something. So they have all this information and everything else. We then have Val, who takes Klyla back to her home planet, which I find to be weird. So Klyla goes back home. We then have trying to think of who else. So we have that going on. Then we have this is basically we see where everyone is now. So we're now deciding that Guerrera is saying all this stuff about issues going on this planet. They're not quite believing him, but with the news about this energy project that could be turning into a weapon, they're now more willing to believe him in the sense of that something's going on there. So because of that, they then send Cassian over there to try to get more information on what's going on. So takes off with the K9 unit, yeah, K9 unit, I believe. I forget what his name is. It's gonna bother me now. But anyway, they take off. We then see, what was I gonna say? We then see his. We see the planet that was in the first three episodes. Um, and what happens there is we see that Bix is there and she's holding a child, which means that Cassian is a father. And obviously, this leads up to the beginning of Andor. I mean, not Andor, Rogue One. So then the events of Rogue One happen. So I'm very curious because it looks like Vel, Vel, Bix, and Klyla are still alive. And we don't know what's going to happen with them. So I'm very curious on that front in the sense of what happened to them where they didn't get involved in the events of Rogue One. But we'll have to. I'm imagining they might tell that story. Maybe they don't. Maybe we have no idea what's going to happen. But overall, this was an incredible three episodes. This one felt more like a movie than all the others, in my opinion. And this was so good. This was definitely a great conclusion that we needed. Even though we knew how this was going to end, we also didn't at the same time, which I thought was incredible. We knew where the end goal was, but we didn't know where else it was going to go from there. But let me know what you guys thought about this season and series down in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you not? And why? And as always, if you like the content you see, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a wonderful night. Bye bye.